So is writing for everyone else 10% typing and 90% staring at the wall like a complete idiot? My writing routine is one, open my laptop. Two, stare at the blinking cursor like it's personally insulting me. Okay. Three, write one line, hate it, delete it, rewrite it, hate it again. Four, Google synonyms for walking for an hour or so, because apparently my character can't walk like a normal person. She must what? Trudge? Five. Get inspired at 3 a.m. and write the masterful 5 pages scene on my phone notes. Okay. And six, read it in the morning. Absolute rubbish. Okay, so why is writing like this? Why can't I just open Word doc and be like chapter 12 and then proceed like a normal human? Instead, I'm sitting around bargaining with fictional people like I own them rent. Anyhow, I wrote 30 words today, so I reward myself with a 3 hour nap. Okay, that's progress. At least that's progress. um, so there's two things that's probably coming into my mind right now. It could be perfectionism, procrastination, yeah, and overthinking. Those really are the main things that come to my mind. And you know, I was about to dive deep into like procrastination and blah blah blah, perfectionism, things like that, but I don't know. I'm trying to like think of something a little bit different right now for this. Cause of course, like if you once you hear this, it's like you kind of know already. Like at least you should know. Like maybe you need to hear it again from somebody else. Is like, okay, don't overthink it. Just go with the flow. Like, just remember it's the first draft. Like, just as long as you remember that, then you should allow yourself to have ideas like come out. Like, regardless if it's rubbish, like just remember you could change it later. You could always edit it later on. That's like my first instinct just to say that. Like, oh, like do this, do that. Like, I'm kind of like thinking about like the fundamentals of like the mindset of it all. How to really like change your way of thinking in terms of like writing and going through the writing process. Because also did react to a video that was like, where a writer admitted that like writing for the most part is dreadful at times because, you know, you're always in your head debating on scenes that you like and you don't like and like you think it's good and then you don't think it's good and then things like that. And it's like that's part of like low key, it's kind of like part of the process in terms of writing your drafts and stuff like that. And so like part of me is like thinking like, you know, we should honestly like accept that as part of the journey because it's something that a lot of us could relate to. Like if you look at the post, it has like over like what 458 upvotes and 191 comments. Like, a lot of people relate to this. But something to keep in mind is like when this happens, like when you are experiencing these moments of like you're opening your laptop and like nothing is coming to mind and you're just like staring at a blank screen and you like look over and then 5 minutes pass, 10 minutes pass, like 15 minutes, an hour has passed, and like you only got a few lines in. When that happens, I tend to write questions. That's what I tend to do at least is like what is really about optimizing what you could possibly do in those moments. Like instead of like trying to completely avoid the moment altogether, like avoid this happening cuz like it happens to the best of us like regardless of how good we get as writers. And is I think the best writers just have like a process, have like a routine, a method of what they do when stuff like this happens. And I could tell you right now what I do is I tend to just write questions of like what am I stuck with? Like what part of the story I'm currently stuck with and write down like okay, my characters can't find a way to accomplish this or my characters need to find a way to get to this part of the map or this area, this location. This character needs to meet with this character. How do I close the gap so that they can meet? Things like that. What type of conversation does this character need to have in order to realize their mistakes in the previous chapter? How can this character approach their father so that they could confront them on past trauma? Like just things like that, like whatever comes to mind. That's why they say like brain dump is so important. And I think we usually think of brain dump as like ideas for the story, but I think if you just write in general, in terms of like getting the flow of like writing like your thoughts in general, in a sense of like even if it's like not relevant to your story, where it's like okay, your current thoughts of how you're feeling, let's say, wow, okay, this kind of relates to a video I made before of like you are your characters. Like, let's say you write down your feelings of how you're currently feeling about the story and about your characters, or maybe just in your real life. Like, maybe you're frustrated about like something that happened at work, or something that you didn't get right, or maybe something something that did go right and you're grateful for. Things like that. Like the emotions that you've gone through in the day could really relate to it could relate to what your characters are going through. I made a video about this, like how my job and how I feel about my job could really be reflection of how my characters feel about certain scenes in the story. Cuz the way I think about things is, yes, we go through different experiences, but emotions are very similar. And the way I think of it is, like, let's say a person's rock bottom. I think that the feeling of like hitting rock bottom, like being at your lowest, I think a lot of us have that experience, but just in different scenarios. Like some of our rock bottoms is like our bank account going to the negative or zero. And then for another person, their rock bottom is like losing their mother, or like, losing a parent or a loved one. And that puts them in a drought. And actually, I don't even want to compare the two, like the whole like the death of your loved one and money, and like bank account going to zero. Like, yes, maybe some people experience something like had like a similar feeling between the two, like in terms of like they don't see a way out, or they don't see a path of like feeling better after the fact. Like that's kind of how I'm comparing it, is like the feeling of not knowing how to like recover or overcome, or like feel normal again after the fact. I think that's really where the comparison comes to. Like, I'm not you being broken, like losing a loved one, is not apples to apples, but there are some type of like similarities there, and that's kind of what I'm pinpointing to. So yeah, that's how I think about it. Like with my characters, like for example, my character is in a place that he does not want to be in at all, and he despises being there. And I could use how my experience at work and not wanting to be there at times, and how I feel like anxious and anxiety, and like how I have like an immense headache when like someone who's talking to me and I don't want to talk to them, and it's like super annoying. Like I could use that experience and use that to like showcase my characters and what they're going through, because it's like relatable in a sense. So like I don't really have to think too much of like think outside of this world and like trying to like enter into my character's mind. It's more like I'm using my mind and my experience to portray my character, right? So think of it that way. Like that's why when I think of brain dump, is like, don't just think about brain dumping like ideas for your story and like bad ideas and things like that. You could also brain dump and think about like just your life in general. Like think about how your day's been, like what type of emotions you went through today, and see how those emotions could be related to a particular scene that your character is going through. Things like that. Like that could really help you a ton with coming up with new ideas and overcoming this staring at the blank screen type of thing. Like even using the frustration currently of like not coming up with a solution of how to proceed in the story. You could use that frustration to maybe depict a scene of where your main character is frustrated because he or she can't solve this like issue that they're going through within your story. Like they're just in their head as well. Like going back and forth, like debating like how the hell do I even like save my mom, or how the hell do I I don't know, save the world or whatever, or how the hell do I I don't know, your character's trying to like get this job or something happens, like that back and forth that they're going through, like your characters in their head, like trying to solve this issue that you're putting them through in the story. Like that frustration is similar to how like you can't think of the next scene and what's gonna happen next, and like your mind is blank, because you're just so angry and frustrated because like you already went through a lot of BS throughout the day and you're already annoyed. You already had like a lot of responsibilities to do, and now like you're trying to find this like space of just peace where you could just be alone with your story so you could be in this world and continue it. So yeah, that was a longer rant than I thought of, but that's just something to think about, is like, you know, utilizing more of your experiences to come up with ideas, and your emotions as well. Like connect your emotions with your character's emotions. Because that's one thing I always think about is when it comes to when I read stories, at least, and I think this is what's helping me write better beginnings of a story, is like I feel like the way the characters feel in the story, like especially the main character, is usually a reflection of how the reader is gonna feel. So it's like so it's like this, right? If the characters is like angry and frustrated, or it's like curious, let's say curious. Let's say the characters are curious of like what's going on, like they're put into a scenario where it kind of like jumpstart the story, like the premise, and they're curious about like what's going on, why is happening and stuff like that. I feel like that's what gets readers curious of like why things are happening as well, and like start asking themselves questions, while the main characters asking themselves questions as well of what's happening. So yeah, that's just something to think about. I hope this all makes sense. I hope somewhere in my rant it all made sense. But because like I'm kind of like freestyling for the most part. If you can't tell, you probably can tell. But yeah, I hope this helps. Truly so. And yeah, if you need help with like your outline and you don't feel ready to start your first draft, you could click the link down below to do a consultation call. I give like suggestions, ask you questions, give you feedback on how I feel after reading certain parts of your outline, and then we will work together in order to, make you feel prepared to start writing your first draft. So you could also watch a video here or there, and there'll be a video showcasing how I do consultation calls, my process, things like that, how I look over your story. Yeah. Also, I also uploaded a video earlier, not earlier today, but like there's like a one of my past videos I made is about me reviewing someone's story live. Of course, I didn't like reveal their what the story's about and stuff like that. I kind of just like showed a clip of my general advice of how I handle his part, like how I would handle like a certain section of his story, without really saying anything about his story at all, and also like block off. Like I put a blocker on the screen of what the story is about, you know. So yeah, maybe that video I should also leave a link there on that video. Maybe that will give you an idea of how I do consultation calls. But yeah, thank you for listening. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Hope this video helps. Yeah, peace.